Okay, so it's the last day of May, and I know I'm not going to finish the book I'm on today. So I figured I'd film my What I Read in May video. I read a total of 8 books, so let's get started. The first book I read was Satellite by Nick Lake. It was sci-fi and LGBTQIA+. I rated it 4 stars. I love the characters, there were crazy twists, and the only thing I didn't like was they purposely misspelled words and sentences began in lowercase levels. The second book I read was Perfectly Undone by Jamie Raintree. I rated it 2 stars. It was too slow-paced, most of the characters were insufferable, and it tried way too hard to be profound. Hold on, Luna. And that was a contemporary fiction. The third book that I read was The Glass Ocean by Beatrice Williams, Lauren Willig, and Karen White. And I ended up rating that a 3.5. This was an advanced reader's copy. It was too wordy and dialogue went on for too long. And Sarah's storyline seemed to have random parts to it. So because it's a ARC, I kind of wonder if if in the final edition it's different. So I wasn't gonna be too harsh about how I rated it, because maybe I would have liked it better if it was like the final cut of it that was historical fiction. The fourth book that I read was A Magical Realism. This is a library book I've already turned back in, so I don't have it on me. It's We'll Prescribe You a Cat by Suyu Ishida. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I tried. I rated it 3.5. It was comforting. I love how it shows how cats heal people, but the last 100 pages happened to be pretty confusing, so that's why I got a little bit of a lower rating. The premise was really good, but it's like the last 100 pages were just really weird. The next one I read was a contemporary fiction called Jenny James Is Not a Disaster by Debbie Johnson. I rated that, well, it's going to be our little buddy today. I rated that a 4. I love how it showed how quickly life can change for someone. It had a good storyline and characters. It was slightly slow-paced, but it was in a way that I didn't mind it. Because sometimes something is a slower-paced book, and it's insufferable, or you're just finding it too hard to get through or whatever. And with that, some parts were a little slower than I liked, but others, it was okay. And I could just read through it, and kind of like, sometimes you want it to be slow. The next one I read was a romance called The X Talk by Rachel Lynn Solomon. I ended up rating that a 4. It had amazing characters, a great storyline, and good twists. The next book I read is both contemporary fiction and magical realism. Was The Violin Maker's Secret by Evie Woods. Hey Luna. I rated that a 3.5. The plot was all over the place. I ended up being confused half the time. I did, however, like how characters were meant to be in each other's lives. Like, it was confusing, but it was coherent enough to be, like, you could keep track of it enough, but not totally, because I feel like it was really just, you doing? You doing, Lou? She loves doing this. I just feel like it was all over the place with some of the stuff, and that's just the part I didn't really like about it. And the final book I read this month was The Note Through the Wire by Doug Gold. The incredible true story of a prisoner of war and a resistance heroine. This was a nonfiction historical book. I rated it 4 stars. It was slow-paced, but I really like how they showed how POWs are treated. Because I've read a lot of, well, this isn't historical fiction. This is more of a true account kind of a thing. But a lot of the time I read historical fiction, specifically about the Holocaust or World War II. And a lot of the time they don't touch on this. And I like how they showed how it was almost like, so he was a New Zealander, and it was like, at the time they were under British rule, New Zealand was, and they didn't really know what to do with him, in terms of like, getting him to, Austria, where he wanted to be with the woman he fell in love with, and like, Germany didn't know what to do with him in terms of him being a prisoner of war under their hands, the Russians, and it's just like, I mean, I know that, like, when a war happens and, it can get really hairy in terms of trying to rebuild and things, and it really showed the chaos and the aftermath in war. So, as for my read through the alphabet challenge, careful. I covered the letter J with Jimmy James Is Not a Disaster, the letter X with the X Talk. That's the only book I've done with this challenge, or will do with this challenge, where it's technically not the first letter of the book, because the letter X ended up being really impossible, so it ended up being that. The letter V with the Violin Maker's Secret, and the letter N with the Note Through the Wire. I only got 2 more letters left. I'm going to cover letter O and Z next month, because I'm on the letter O book now. And then after that, I won't have to be doing, well, I will have completed this challenge. So I ended up reading 1 LGBTQIA plus book, 1 sci-fi book, 3 contemporary fictions, 1 historical fiction, 2 magical realisms, a romance, and a non-fiction, and a historical, which I think is different from historical fiction, because I feel like historical is more so an account and not necessarily made up characters kind of a thing. So yeah, that's what I read in May.